Finally, we have part one of our exclusive interview with music mogul Shawn Jay-Z Carter. The Brooklyn-born rapper is the subject of a massive, and massive is a word, exhibit at the Brooklyn Public Library. It's the first one of the scope ever held there. It's called Book of Hove, Hove, of course, being one of his nicknames. Since it opened in July, hundreds of thousands of people have visited, and the library says, listen to this number, it's seen a 97% increase in new card accounts across all of its locations. You know, you have days where you really love your job. This is one of those days for me. Why? Because Jay-Z gave us a personal tour of the exhibit, and then he sat down for a very rare interview. May I give you the Book of Hove?
Sure. Thank you.
Now tuned into the greatest. Turn the music up in the headphones.
The Book of Hove exhibit at Brooklyn Public Library begins outside with a breathtaking display of Jay-Z's lyrics covering the building's walls. You grew up, what, a couple miles from here?
Yeah.
So you're very familiar with this building. Hey! Look how they can... I love
That's
that.
right.
I love that. So when you drive by, Jay, and you see words to your songs on the library.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's fascinating. I didn't think that it would be so grand.
So grand?
Yeah.
Well, what did you think? It couldn't be a little exhibit,
I really
Mr. Carter.
I thought it was just like a little exhibit, like, you know, to get like...
A room?
I mean, a room.
I got 99 problems, but a ain't one. Hit me.
Inside the installation created by Jay-Z's company, that would be Roc Nation, you'll find the scope of the rapper's body of work and origin stories, including this hand symbol. Let's start here, because it's my understanding that your team did this for you and you didn't really know what they were doing. What did you think was happening?
I didn't know anything about it, but when they asked me to do an impression for the hands, I did the impression, and I didn't even question. I just left it alone.
What does this mean? I know it means Rockefeller and diamonds, but where did you get that idea from to do that?
When we first started, we had a group called Shawn. When you sell 10 million, you go diamond.
Okay.
Right? We believed in them so heavy. It was like, this group is gonna sell 10 million records. So we started putting the diamond up for Shawn. That's how it all came about. And then we started playing with it, and then we started doing it at shows. Then the whole crowd started doing it and just stuck. Jay-Z's
music career spans over 3 decades. His 13 studio albums are all highlighted here. We have to start with Reasonable Doubt, because no record label wanted to do this.
Rightfully so. I think I needed to grow into this album right here. And had I gone to a label, I don't think I would have been able to fully explore what was really happening.
Really?
Because I had the freedom and like the independence to like really talk about like the real stuff that was happening in the streets and happening for me and my friends at the time. You know, record labels would probably say, yo, you need a big hit. You need this. Let's go get.
When you look at these covers, are there stories that come to mind for you when you're looking at them?
Yeah. So this album was the streets' favorite.
Yeah.
This album, I was trying to go into like the music business. So the first song I made for this album was Streets Is Watching. That's the last song I played for Biggie. He kept saying, play it again, play it again. And I gave him it was on the cassette.
When the streets is watching, blocks keep clocking, waiting for you to break, make your first mistake.
I'll never forget, like he looked back, he's like, the whole album's gonna sound like this? And it was almost like, it was playful, but it's also almost like, man, he's coming, he's coming.
From standing on the corners bopping to driving some of the
This is the album that is the most important album, because it was the album where I honed my craft as a songwriter and that balance of creating exactly what I want and just as a writer, a technical song maker. Song-making skills with real stories is when it all came together on this album.
I'm gonna try not to do this too many times on the tour, but honestly, when I walked in this room and just take a look at all of the visuals of you up there, what does this mean to you? I mean, it's your face everywhere. I can't imagine.
No, it's unbelievable. First of all, it's Brooklyn. Let's start there, right? It's just like, it's in Brooklyn.
What does Brooklyn mean to you, Jay-Z,
Yeah,
Shawn
that's
Carter?
everything, it's everything.
Yeah, I'm out at Brooklyn. Now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to the Narrow.
You know what else I think is so interesting? Number one, it's in the library.
And since I made it here, I can make it anywhere.
And it's free and accessible to everybody, because people would pay to go see an exhibit like this. But your team decided they wanted it, A, in Brooklyn. They wanted it in a library so everybody could see it.
Really important, and that, I love that.
Big pimpin', baby.
Come on, you gotta talk quiet in the library.
Big pimpin', spinning cheese.
This room I like in particular because one of the great lyrics I love that you did, I'm not a businessman, I'm a business, comma, man.
I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman.
I love that lyric. The way your play on words is
it's
genius.
The space, thank you. It's one I'm proud of as well because it's really it's a simple phrase, but the space gives it meaning.
Turn my vocal up some more.
And the business-minded mogul has pursued everything, from fashion to football.
Super Bowl goals.
In 2022, the halftime show he helped produce made history, winning an Emmy for Outstanding Variety Special. That was a Super Bowl first. That beat out the Grammys, that beat out the Tonys for the best show, and it was 13 minutes.
Yeah.
What'd that mean to you?
For me, as a kid growing up on like Snoop and Dre and all them, and like being a fan of what they do on the West Coast, to be a part of something that had them on stage in LA, and the fact that it never happened before is one of the things that, you know, I take pride in, like pushing the culture forward.
Hold it. Please Lord forgive me for what the stove did.
And he's using his platform to push for change in the justice system. In 2019, Jay-Z helped launch the Reform Alliance with a goal of transforming the country's approach to probation and parole.
It's not an easy job. This is a really tough space to deal with. And I think
But it means
at
something
the end
to
of the day,
you.
yeah, because I think at the end of the day, we're losing a lot of mentors and a lot of people that be positive members of society.
Double your money and make it stack. I'm on to the next one.
Our tour also showcased one of Jay-Z's biggest business moves, reclaiming his music.
On to the next one. On to the next. Hold up.
Now these, I love that these are the masters, Jay, as you know. People are selling their masters these days. Would you ever sell your masters?
No.
Never?
No.
Why not?
I get why people do it. I've been fortunate enough to make money in this place. But for me, was the fight of my life. You know, from being an independent company from the beginning, and then going through the Def Jam system, not really understanding how that works, and them having my masters, then going back to Def Jam as the president, and then saying, okay, I'll do this job, and part of this job is my masters has to be revert back to me. Just, you know, it was my kids to see my work, you know, and if they decide to sell it, then it's up to them.
My stake in Rock Nation should go to you. Leave a piece for your siblings to give to their children too. Title to champagne, do say I like to see a nice.
I'm fascinated by your process of normally not writing things down. How are you able to have that in your head? How do you keep track of all of that, I guess is what I want to know.
I've lost a lot of songs that way. I've lost a lot of material, but it just came. It just came like just life. Life is, you know, I was every night writing in that notebook that my mom gave me. It had no lines on it. When I started getting outside, you know, moving further away from my mother's house, and start running the streets, these ideas, they would come, and then I would run into a store, so I'm on the corner, and I would write it on a paper bag, and I put it in my pocket until I got home, then I would transfer it to a book. But then ideas come, more paper, and then I'm getting further and further away. I had to memorize ideas until I got back.
You have a very unique way of moving, too.
I'm feeling every little hi-hat, snare, etc., and the space in between. So sometimes I'll jerk like that because there's a space in between that I'm trying to feel.
I'm fascinated by the trajectory of your life because it could have gone so left so many different ways, so many different times. Do you even find yourself, even today, sometimes, I can't believe that this has happened to me, even now?
You won't believe how many times that I do that a week. I do
Seriously?
that all the time.
I still think about what you mean to people in terms of you walk in a room, people know that you're in the room. You have your hands in many different pots. And I'm trying to figure out what matters most to you. Can you even pick anything like that?
I think what matters most is today is being a beacon and helping out my culture, people of color. I think I pull the most satisfaction from that. Like making music early was like my first love. I could sit there for hours, it consumed me.
Yeah.
Just finding words and figuring out words and how to say this and different ways to say that and different pockets and melodies and how to write this song. That consumed me. That's why my pace was so fast. I had so much material. And I think now, you know, the idea of taking that platform and reproducing it for others or doing something like Reform, et cetera, I think I derived the most joy from that.
Super Bowl goes. My wife in the
This
crib,
morning, we have part 2 of our exclusive interview with music mogul Shawn Jay-Z Carter. So we took you on a tour of Brooklyn Public Library's expansive Book of Hove exhibit yesterday, where Hove himself was our guide. I can't lie, that was very, very cool. Today, we'll get to know more about the man behind the music. It's another side to Jay-Z, the family man with a ginormous heart. Only on CBS Mornings, he shares a part of the exhibit that brought tears to his family and to his eyes. But first, I can't help it, a reintroduction.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
This might be the most dynamic room of the Book of Hove exhibit. Footage from some of Jay-Z's biggest shows light up every corner, including that time he made history as the Glastonbury Festival's first hip-hop headliner in England. So Glastonbury, this was a big deal because there was some skepticism about you being on that stage. Like, what's a rapper doing in Glastonbury?
Yeah.
But that didn't deter you.
At one point, I was like, why am I going there? They don't want me there, I won't go. And then Chris from Coldplay was instrumental in that.
Chris Martin.
Yeah, he was like, Jay, they love you. It's just like the old guard, they don't know. Like, it's always been a rock festival. They didn't have anything against me personally. It was just like, this is a rock festival, this is what it is.
So
but the world was changing.
Jay-Z asked guitarists on his team to teach him Wonderwall by Oasis right before the show, after a member of the rock band said rap didn't belong at Glastonbury.
And luckily it was 4 chords. It was almost like dun, 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 then repeat.
So they say you guys ain't want me to be here tonight.
That moment, it was, I could have done anything.
I guess I got my swagger back.
His trip down memory lane doesn't end there. This studio is an almost exact replica of the one Jay-Z commissioned to create iconic records like The Blueprint and the Black Album. What comes to mind when you sit here, Jay? Baseline Studios.
Just the memories of Baseline. And, like, all of this, like everything about it, even the way the CDs are set and this little lollipop thing and the way the wires.
You had lollipops in the studio?
She had. I don't know where you get those lollipops from, Juan. BJ's? You go buy them wholesale. The floor, everything about it is just, it's like being in Baseline for real.
Mm-hmm. You know, you said you'll keep rapping as long as you have truth to give. And the question is, what is your truth?
It's constantly learning and evolving and being okay with that. Sometimes it's hard to learn in front of people, right? Because the mistakes you made, you're making mistakes in front of the whole world. And to be that vulnerable in front of the entire world, it's not an easy thing.
Are you scared to be vulnerable, Jay? Are you scared?
I made 444. Like, I'm not afraid to be vulnerable.
I apologize, often womanized. Took for my child to be born, see through a woman's eyes. Took for these natural twins to believe in miracles. Took me too long for this song. I don't deserve you.
There were parts of me in my career, even my first album has regrets on it. My second album has You Must Love Me on it. These are very vulnerable songs, but I couldn't string them together. And or I made Song Cry.
I can understand why you want a divorce now, though I can't let you know it. Pride won't let me show it.
And then I had to like use a hypothetical situation or like 3 stories of 3 different people in one. But the long answer to your question is, you know, it just has to feel honest, truthful, and it still has to be jamming.
And Jay-Z's extraordinary ability to pin his perspective landed him in the Songwriters Hall of Fame.
First rapper inducted. It's like, for a while, they were just dismissing rap as this fad or this noise that people just screaming over beats. So to be, for not that we needed the validation, but it was like, we want the validation, because we deserve it.
Thank you, far too kind.
Do your kids think you're cool?
Blue, she be fronting on me a little bit, but I catch her. I catch her in the corner, you know. Now she asks me, you know, if this cool, if you know her sneakers or whatever she's wearing.
She
now.
wants your advice.
Yeah. She's come back, but there was a time where she was like, "Dad."
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm cool. I don't know what you're saying."
Yes.
At your house, your parents is cool.
We're going to the second floor.
Yeah.
Because you can't put all of Jay-Z's work on one level. We're going to floor number 2. Oh, I definitely went to On the Run. Let's go there. I definitely went to that one.
Yeah.
But this year, Jay-Z opted for a role offstage, joining wife Beyonce on her Renaissance World Tour.
Welcome to the Renaissance.
Listen, I felt so proud.
Yeah.
I want to know what it felt like for you, watching her, your wife, and your daughter on stage, what that meant to you, and what that felt like.
Thank you for that question, by the way. First part, my wife, just, you know, I know how hard she works.
Yes.
For me, it's her best tour.
That's her best tour?
And it's hard to
I think so too.
And it's hard to really compare them because they all have their different things of like genius, but this one to me felt like the most complete. And on top of it, how inclusive it was, and the story of her Uncle Johnny, and like
Johnny
just
Make
how
My Dress,
and how everything just came about, and which goes to from Johnny, the ancestors, to Blue. And Blue, what makes me super like proud and like, you know, I still get goosebumps seeing her walk on stage is because Blue's been born into this world that she didn't act. She's been born into a life she didn't act. So since she was born, she's been in like scrutiny and public eye, and everyone having an opinion of, you know, even a little girl, how she keeps her hair. So for her to be on that stage and reclaim her power, and the song is called My Power, and like it just, you can't write a better script. And then watching her grow in it. You know, she came out, she's 80,000 people. She's 11, so she's nervous. She's looking like,
was she nervous?
I know her.
She didn't look nervous.
I know her.
Yeah, I know
so
you
I
do.
know how nervous she was. You know, I
Yes.
know how frightened she was.
But she did it,
but
Jay.
she wanted to do it. She wanted to do it the first night, and we was like, okay, if this is something you want to do, you can't just go out there. You gotta go work with the dancers and go work. And she worked every day and watched her work hard. She had like a little icy pack thing on her back some days.
And as for Blue's name, where did that come from? I just assumed it. I almost wore blue today, but I thought that's
Her name
too
was
thirsty.
meant to be Brooklyn.
Because rumor has it that it's blue because blue's your favorite color. I don't even know if that's true.
No, but I wish it was that simple, but it's a story. I'm gonna tell you a story. It was supposed to be Brooklyn. That was the name we had in theory. But when we got to, what you call it, little sonograms?
Yeah.
You know, it's super small, and we was calling her Blueberry. Like, look at the little Blueberry. You know, it was like a nickname. And for 9 months, we like, yeah, look at little Blueberry. So it was natural. We just took the berry off and just called it Blue.
What I like, the variation of hairdos from there to here to what you have here. But is this one of your favorite looks that you have now? Do you like this?
My family's favorite look.
They're
holding the Caesar's my favorite look. The Caesar's the money cut for me. I'm from New York City.
Which one? This one?
This is the Caesar. They call this the Caesar.
Oh, you like, this is your favorite one?
We call it it's the same haircut. It's called, this is light Caesar or dark Caesar. Like, we call it a one blade. But Caesar is the New York City money cut.
Yes.
That's my favorite haircut.
But this is your family's favorite look? When you said the kids and the and Beyonce?
Rumi was the last one to sell me out because she was with me. And I'm like, I'm cutting my hair, guys. I'm preparing them for it. And they like, Blue's just going crazy. No, Dad, you can't cut your hair. It's part of who you are. And blah, blah, blah. And so they're fighting over this. I'm working through whether to cut it or not. I'm just letting the world know.
Now just
Jay says this room has a story, so we're going.
So I came in here when it opened, and my grandmother, who just turned 98.
Oh, this is the room. For Jay-Z, exploring this exhibit became a family affair.
Just me.
We sat right here.
You and your grandmother?
Yes, she had a wheelchair because there's a lot of walking the steps. My beautiful grandmother, her name is Hattie White. She raised 7 kids. On top of that,
Her kids had kids, and we all was raised in the same house.
And she's sitting right there. And my grandmother, reason why I'm like reserved and hold my feelings in, it comes from her, to my mother, to me.
Yeah.
And she started crying. And then it was just like,
Because Jay, she was taking it all in, right?
yeah. And I've maybe seen her cry 3 times in my life. She just, she just keeps everything close to the vest, and that's who she is. I got a lot of my ways from her, and my mother got a lot of ways from her as well. I see it now when they talk and everything they do now. I'm just analyzing them. I'm like, oh.
That's where I get that from.
Oh.
Yeah. So I will just end with this.
Thanks for coming out tonight.
You could have been anywhere today. And I appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
I really do. You have no idea. I really do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We are so very happy.
Yes.
Morgan Freeman is here joining us now in studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
We
Good
should
morning.
say Vlad
Good morning.
is
Good morning.
fangirling.
I have been
Vlad is
all morning
fangirling.
long. I'm so excited.
He's not the only one, Gayle.
But we all are.
We all are.
Yes,
we all
yes,
are.
yes.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. So let me ask you about what drew you to this project. I know you have an interest in the natural world. What interests you so much about it?
I always answer that question first, Vlad, by asking, do you want me to give you the truth or just make something up?
The truth.
I'm sure both are amazing,
Make
but give me the truth.
Make something up. Yeah. I want to hear them both, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the truth is, I'm one of those people who's been interested for some time in the planet itself.
Yeah.
I watch every TV show that's called The Planet, The Planet Earth.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you come to realize, watching it, just how incredible the planet is.
Yeah.
Life on this planet. You look deep into space and we can see a long way into space and you don't find anything even close to this planet. So what do we do?
Yeah.
If you realize that, Jesus, this is it. This is all there is. And we're misusing.
Mistreating?
Abusing. I mean, in the series, it points out that there have been 5 extinctions on the planet and that we're due for a 6th.
Mass extinctions.
Mass
Yeah.
extinctions.
Right.
Yet the planet always survives, and it's because we need to do better, we need to take care of it. And that's one of the main messages here. Because, as you point out, we have the intelligence to do better.
We
taking
do.
care of the
It's
planet.
a question of whether we use that intelligence intelligently.
Yeah.
Scientists have been telling us for years, hey, y'all, we got to change our ways here.
Yeah.
And in today's world, you've watched fires, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes. That, to me, is the beginning of the next
It's like Earth
extinction
speaking
level
to
event.
they say if you don't learn from the past, you are damned to repeat it.
Right.
And what I love about this, one, is visually stunning.
Yes.
Beautifully written, and then your voice just delivers that it needs.
That voice.
But you find yourself, like Gayle said, you find yourself learning. There's
Yeah.
stuff that I've learned about this planet that I was not taught in school, and then there's stuff that I am learning about myself. First episode, a couple things stood out, and I had to write them down. Competition drives adaptation. The best adaptive will win through. The most acute competition comes from one's own kind. And I'm sitting here writing notes after notes because there are applications that you can take from watching this that you can apply not just to the human race, but to the individual. Was that the point of this project?
Is it?
I think so for me.
Well, see, I don't know if anybody else who would sit and say, this is one of the things that is germane to me that I noticed, that the greatest competition comes from one's own kind.
Yeah.
What does that mean to us?
Yeah.
I mean, we're sort of splintering,
Yeah.
it seems like today.
We have some work to do, but let me ask you this before we go, because I've heard from reliable sources, Wendy, the producer, that you're a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. Is that true?
Yes.
So how are you feeling about Taylor and Travis? Is it keeping you up at night? Or are you in favor?
Are you a Swiftie, Mr. Freeman?
Travis is playing better than ever.
Yes. What are you thinking, Morgan Freeman, about this?
I don't think about them at all.
I love the way you delivered that in that iconic Morgan Freeman voice.
All you care about is the touchdowns and wins. Huh?
Yeah, you winning? Right. No, it's great to watch Pat run.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
escape, and he's got a rifle for an arm.
He sure does.
That's all good. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Well, you've got that iconic voice. Can you say for us just once, time now for What to Watch with Vlad?
Oh.
Time now for What to Watch with Vlad.
Boom! I'm gonna keep that on my phone forever. Morgan Freeman, thank you so very much.
We're very happy to say that Jesmyn Ward is here in studio today. Hello, Jesmyn Ward, and congratulations. You didn't have the earpiece, but Oprah just said this about you: a powerful, vital voice in our culture. That she's read all of your other books. So, hello, powerful, vital voice in our culture. How did you find out that you were? I'm always fascinated by how people find out that they are the book club selection. How was it for you?
So I actually missed Oprah's call.
What?
Yes. I need a new phone. My ringer was on, it was in front of me. The ringer was set at the highest possible volume setting.
But you didn't know she was calling.
No, I didn't know she was calling me. My editor told me that I had to be on a conference call with my publisher and that it was very important because, and so I had everything set up, and then I looked at the time on my computer and I was like, wait a second. It's past the time when I was supposed to get the call. And so I saw that I had a Miss Chicago number on my
she
phone.
does have a Chicago number.
Right,
Yep.
and so I thought, well, this is someone on the team who just has a cell phone, a Chicago cell phone number.
Right.
Let me call them back. And I called that number, and Oprah picked up the phone and said, "Hi, Jesmyn, this is Oprah." And I was stuck. I didn't know what to say. I thought, I don't know what to say to that.
You could say hello.
Right.
What you want, Oprah?
Yeah, phones should have an Oprah setting.
Yes. But congratulations. She's very excited about this. But I just want to read the first line, because I always love people's first lines. It said, "The first weapon I ever held was my mother's hand." Just the visual of that. This is a little girl talking. The first weapon I ever held was my mother's hand. So Annis and her mom have a very tight bond, and her mom is preparing her for what? What is this scene setting up?
Her mom is preparing her for life in that world generally, and also I think life without her, because her mother knows there's always a danger that they could be separated. So that's what her mother is preparing her for. But at the same time, I feel like that she's preparing her to fight, to understand how to read a situation and then how she should react in different situations. At the same time, I think her mother teaches her how to fight because it's a part of their story, of their heritage. It's a way to pass down what little history they have.
And she knows, because she's born of rape, the
Right.
little girl, and the mother knows that, and she seems to think it's only a matter of time before this could possibly happen to you, too.
Right.
And then Anna says, I've grown from that night to this one. The whole adventure comes out of that one night. What was it like to have, and how hard was it to have Annis in your head as you're writing about this character, thinking about this character that is going through these incredible trials?
It was difficult, especially because at the time, I wrote the bulk of this after 2020, when all of us were going through such, incredible trials. And so it was difficult, but I think that writing about Annis allowed me to find my way through very difficult situations.
Yeah. But it was difficult for you, too. Listen, you were a young mom. You lost your husband right as COVID was beginning with 2 young children as you're in the middle of writing this book. Was this healing for you, and how are you doing after that?
It was healing for me. I think, I was in the throes of fresh grief, and so I think that grief allowed me to better understand Annis and better understand what she was going through. And her journey to sort of figure out what a new future would look like or what a new life without her mother and without these people that she loved. I think that sort of served as a model for me, right? To begin to figure out what this new version of my life would look like.
When it comes to beautifully written books like this, it's up to the reader's interpretation of what they take away. But I just want to stick with the title, Let Us Descend. It's powerful. What do you want people to take away from the title of this book?
I guess I would say that, yes, this book is about a descent, but at the same time, there is an ascent afterwards.
Yes, yeah, because it could be called Let Us Ascend.
That's right.
Because what happens to her along the way in the journey that she goes through, it's very, very, very well done.
Well, thank you so much, Jesmyn. We appreciate you.
I'm sorry, Adam, I brought you in early, but now here you are, and thank you for being here. A lot of people think about those who are born with talent, who are just these prodigies that emerge from the womb and into greatness. But you say that's not really the way it works.
Yeah, that's not what the research shows. If you look at the greatest athletes, scientists, and even artists, you find that they rarely stood out early. So for every Mozart, there are multiple Bachs who actually ascend slowly and then ultimately bloom late.
And how do they build the characteristics or attributes to do that, to become a kind of person who can bloom late?
So it turns out that we really underestimate the importance of character skills, the ability to take whatever your goals and principles are and turn those into daily practices. So you see that great learners they're human sponges. They absorb information and then they filter out feedback that's not relevant to them. They love to embrace discomfort and put themselves in challenging situations. And they're willing to tolerate imperfections because mistakes are part of the path to growth.
Yeah, you tell a great story about how you were giving a speech. Number one, I was surprised to hear that you were nervous giving speeches. Back in the day you were, and it wasn't going well. You said you can always find people who are cheerleaders or critics. It's harder to find people who are coaches. And what you need to do is don't ask for feedback, ask for advice. What's the difference?
Well, when you ask for feedback, basically people will either applaud your best self, that's the cheerleaders, or they'll attack your worst self, and those are the critics. And neither of those things help you, right? You don't necessarily just want to know what you did right or what you did wrong. You want to know how you can improve. When you say, what's the one thing I can do better? People focus on the future, and then they actually become your coaches.
I want to get back to the idea of perfectionism, because in this day and age with social media, people that are so-called influencers, that's all they show, is a perfect life. And that can be misleading to the youth. But you say, embrace the imperfect, and that can be a little bit more of a fuel for you to get to the next level.
Yeah, as a recovering perfectionist, I really struggled to follow this advice from time to time. I was a springboard diver, and I felt like I had to aim for perfect 10s every time. And one day my coach said to me, you know, there's no such thing as a perfect 10. A 10 is for excellence. And we sat down and we would say, okay, on this dive, we're aiming for 7s. On this one, we're aiming for 4s. And I think that is a skill we should all apply in our daily lives.
I know, I like that. I also like, you know, we always think, be a team player, be a team player. You say, yeah, but that doesn't mean being kumbaya. That's not how this is supposed to work.
Right.
Because you said brainstorming, because you always say, let's all brainstorm. You said brainstorming usually backfires.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So the evidence shows that if you bring a group of people together to brainstorm, if you had let them work alone, you would have gotten more ideas and also better ideas. Because in a group, we can't all talk at once. Sometimes people are afraid of looking stupid, so they bite their tongues. And then they want to conform to what the boss thinks is a good idea. If you let people brain write instead...
brain write.
Yeah, brain writing.
R-I-T-E, yeah.
Exactly. If you just let them generate their own separate ideas and collect them, you get more of the variety from the group. Individuals have more brilliant ideas than groups do. They also have more terrible ideas. And so at that point, you want the wisdom of crowds to figure out which ideas are worth pursuing.
How do I take advice if I open up to somebody who wants to give me advice? A lot of people don't want to hear advice, though. How does a person get better at hearing advice?
Well, I think it's actually helpful to really think about the credibility of the source. And that means, is this person knowledgeable about the domain? But John, are they also knowledgeable about you and what your areas for growth look like? Not all critics are thinking critically, and not all of them are speaking constructively.
Also, being a sponge is a good idea.
That's right.
I was definitely a sponge kid.
Yeah.
Just absorb everything that's thrown at you.
And there's also a quiz that people can take on your website that really helps. And we'll talk about my results and Gayle's results and John's during the commercial break. All right, Adam.
The summer heat of Texas is no match for the pit room of Pinkerton's BBQ. And Grant Pinkerton's customers willingly wait in triple-digit temperatures.
All right, welcome in, guys.
How are you, sir? For what's becoming one of the most celebrated barbecue spots.
That's good.
In a state full of award winners.
We cook with nothing but wood. There's
Not bad for a guy who earned a college degree in writing.
You had no cooking experience.
None, zero. Completely self-taught. I read one barbecue cookbook growing up. It was called The Legends of Texas Cookbook.
Fresh out of school, living with his parents, and grilling in the backyard, he floated the career idea by mom and dad.
What's their response?
Well, they thought the food was pretty good. Seeing their support behind me made me feel that it was okay to be a 25-year-old or 26-year-old living on his parents' sofa still, where everybody else had professional corporate jobs.
He'd been working at a gym, then sold barbecue from a trailer in the gym parking lot, opening Pinkerton's Barbecue in this building in 2016, quickly packing the place amid rave reviews for his take on familiar dishes. Brisket, pulled pork, and classic sides are all on the menu, along with a twist on ribs.
These are going to be slightly sweet. They're going to finish with a very subtle heat on the back end. This isn't a traditional Texas rib. That would just have salt and pepper on it. But like when I got into this, I said, when I'm going to make barbecue, I'm going to make it like I like to eat it. And this is how I like to eat my ribs.
Let's go.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Within 2 years, he'd been named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 food and drink list, the first pitmaster ever selected, in part for what he did after Hurricane Harvey in 2017, when much of Houston was underwater and in the dark.
I put a sign on the front door that said, come hell or high water, we're going to have liquor, AC, and barbecue. Through the course of the next 3 or 4 days, we were feeding first responders around the clock.
But as Pinkerton was publicly building his career in barbecue, privately, he was battling the demons of addiction. In a social media post this summer, the 34-year-old revealed he'd reached a milestone 10 years of sobriety after an addiction to heroin and prescription pills, one that ended before he opened his restaurant.
And you pretty much laid it on the line. Why did you do that?
I just see so many families that are devastated by addiction. And I wanted to help destigmatize addiction. Every other disease we have, it's okay to talk about treating it. But if you're an addict that's using drugs, most people just want to walk away.
Pinkerton wrote he'd been silent for too long. The message has been viewed several 100,000 times.
What's the last couple months been like since you put that out there?
Well, I don't have to turn down beers anymore when people come into my restaurant and say, oh, can I buy you a beer? I said, I don't have to deal with that anymore, so I'm pretty happy about that. But it's been awesome. Every day I get a message from somebody else.
Now with a second restaurant.
Big, 1 pound.
More than 90 employees. And a couple of World Championship barbecue titles to his name.
This is going to be the money bite right there.
That's the money bite. That's the money.
Pinkerton, a husband and new dad to 10-month-old Charlotte, is becoming known not just for creating perfection in the pit, but for reminding us it's okay not to be perfect.
I was afforded another chance at life, right? And so my philosophy is every day we're going to wake up, we're going to try to help somebody else.
A pit boss bringing the heat.
How am I doing?
Perfect. Looks great.
And shining a light. For CBS Mornings, I'm Janet Shamlian in Houston.
Lauren Bercier joins us now. Lauren, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Welcome.
So excited. Thank you.
Look at all these flowers. They're gorgeous. What I love about the motto for your company is own the memories, rent the flowers.
That's right.
And you were inspired to start this from your own wedding.
That's right. Honestly, after my own wedding day, I walked away with some buyer's remorse. I realized that I had spent thousands of dollars on these flowers that honestly, when they showed up on the wedding day, I was less than impressed with what I received. And spending so much money on flowers that I literally held in my hands for a few hours, and then at the end of the night, they ended up in the trash. It made me think there had to be a better way.
So how does the company work exactly?
Yes, so we offer over 19 collections of floral designs to choose from. Each collection has everything you need for your wedding day. So bridal bouquets, bridesmaids bouquets, centerpieces. We even have dog collars if you want to include your furry friends.
Yes.
And we also have a full line of decor, and you can rent all the items you need for your wedding day, saving over 70% compared to fresh flowers.
So it's soup to nuts. I'm really glad, Lauren, that you included the dogs, but you got the idea how. So you're sitting around, you're frustrated, you have buyer's remorse, and
Yes.
you and Lakin thought what?
You know, it was also, we were really inspired by Rent the Runway. Rent the Runway was getting a lot of attention at that time, and we thought it was such a, great concept to be able to rent high-ticket items for the weekend of the wedding. And so we decided to use that concept and apply it to the wedding flower industry. And so renting wedding flowers was just the natural solution.
Sure, it makes sense. I mean, you're spending so much money on one day, one night. I recently got married, and so I know it well. I know it well. We were saying it's almost like not real money because you're spending so much of it at some point.
I know. I think we feel really good about being able to offer couples this solution where, like you're saying, everything is so expensive for their wedding day. So if they can find...
Give us an idea of the cost. It's this to this. What is it?
Yes. So an average wedding flower order with Something Borrowed Blooms costs only $500. Now, that can really, change depending on what you order.
Is that more than a little bud vase?
Oh, yeah. It's more than a little bud vase. That'll get you product for your entire wedding party and some centerpieces. But compare that to the national average of $3,000. That's huge savings for couples. So, you can save that money and spend it on something else that's more meaningful to you, or just save it in the bank.
Well, I don't want to be a womp here, Lauren, because I think what you're doing is really fantastic and a great idea. But people would say, but silk flowers don't look the same, and they don't smell the same. To that, you say what?
I beg to differ.
Okay.
We spend a lot of time sourcing every single flower that we use in our collections to make sure that they are the highest quality, that the color is perfect, the size is on point, to make sure that we're offering really beautiful and on-trend flowers. We also have an amazing team of floral designers who work for us, and they have a floral experience, so they're using fresh floral techniques to create the products that we offer. So there's nothing there that's gone untouched. And then we also offer the flowers to be scented. So if you want, you can have your flowers packed with a beautiful, fresh floral scent. So on the day of the wedding, they arrive and they smell like the real thing too.
And we see them right here. They look gorgeous.
I think you're the best advocate for the business. I think you want to know about the business, put Lauren on TV. So I know that you dream big or you go home.
That's right.
Did you have any floral experience yourself?
I have no floral experience. I made the very first prototype of a bouquet, and we laugh at it. It's in the break room, and it's a joke.
That's something that could... So when you dream big or go home, what's your goal? Do you have a goal?
Absolutely. Right now, our goal is to capture 10% of the U.S. wedding market share. I say this all the time, but if you lined up 10 brides in this room today and gave them all the option to rent their wedding flowers, I guarantee you one of them would say yes.
I guarantee it would be more than one. Don't you, Nancy?
I do, especially...
It's beautifully done.
You know what, Gayle? Thank you. We're in New York City. I need to dream bigger now that I'm here.
No. Congratulations.
Thanks.
I don't have a husband yet, but now I know. Why are you laughing, Cloud? But if the day ever happens, I'm going to save your number. Now, I like your outfit for today. Did you choose that on purpose?
Why, of course.
Very much on theme.
On bloom.
Yes. Congratulations, Lauren.
Thank you.
And Lauren came. You saw she came with a team. Her husband, her two sons, Cohen and Lawson, and her mom is here too. I like how you guys travel.
People editor-in-chief Wendy Noggle joins us right now. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
So there have been a ton of headlines already about this book in the lead up to the release of this book. What has Britney's response been to everything?
I think she's been very proud that it's instantly shot up to #1, Amazon bestseller. She's
shot up to #1, Wendy, before it came out.
Exactly. I mean, everyone is clamoring for this book and excited to read it and hear from her. And I think she really views this book as a clean slate. It was a book she didn't know needed to be written. And now that it's out, she feels like she has a clean slate to move forward.
She also said she didn't want to offend anybody by rehashing some of the things that's gone on because there have been a couple of jaw-dropping revelations. But you think it's still relevant for her to talk about her past experiences?
I do.
Moving forward?
I do. I think as a culture, a lot of times we have these moments of nostalgia where we look back at things in our past and, we all cheered for her and watched her music and sang and danced along to her music, but we also watched how she was treated. Mothers often talked about how she was a horrible influence because of the way she danced or her crop tops, or there was even a First Lady of Maryland who said, if I had a gun, I'd like to shoot Britney Spears. she later apologized for that, but that's just one small example of how she was treated over time. And I think as we go back and analyze that, hopefully with more wisdom and more perspective, we learn what we could have done better and how we can do better in the future.
Yeah, the First Lady of Maryland back in the day, not the current First Lady of Maryland.
Back in the day, yes.
Yeah.
She was denied her voice for so long, not her singing voice, but to speak for herself. So many people spoke for her. Is she... you know, sometimes a book will come out and people will interpret it, and I mean, does she feel like this is consistent with her voice, the things she wanted to say?
Good question.
I think so. I think the book really is her speaking. I mean, you can hear her voice as you read it. I mean, it's a very fast read. It's a page turner. It's gripping. And it is really fascinating to hear her side of the events that we all kind of watched in the headlines back in the day.
And one of those headlines was what some people called a meltdown in 2007. You know, it's funny because celebrities have meltdowns all the time. But when Britney had this so-called meltdown, the entire world was talking about it. She shaved her head, and it was on headline after headline.
Well, because we saw it, too.
We
That's
saw
the
it,
other thing,
and we couldn't stop talking about it. And she called this a moment after attacking someone with a camera reporting on it, a desperate move by a desperate person. How does she explain that time in her life?
That was a really difficult time in her life. You know, she was dealing with postpartum depression and some other losses. And she says that was a moment where she was acting out. And it was, you know, with her hair specifically, she knew how that was a symbol of her sexuality and her femininity. And it was a way for her to say, no, you don't get to control this. I'm done with this.
Yeah.
F you. This is how I am going to show that I have control.
Yeah, she also talks about the Free Britney campaign, that when she became aware of that and what that meant to her. How did that affect her? It's very touching in the book.
Yeah, there's a very powerful moment in the book where she was in a mental health facility and one of the nurses pulled her over to her computer and showed her some images of women in Free Britney T-shirts and showing signs of support. And that meant a lot to Britney. I think it really helped her know that when she was feeling so alone, she actually wasn't that alone. There were people out there who were cheering for her and gave her a little motivation to fight.
And in the brief moment we have left, I want to go back to the postpartum depression because it was long and severe. How is that going?
You know, she writes about that very honestly, and also she writes about her perinatal depression, which is depression during pregnancy. And I think this is an example of something that she was talking about and enduring when a lot of people in the culture weren't talking about it at that time. And it's, you know, imagine going through that in addition to the microscope that she was under. And that can be a powerful message to anyone suffering that they can get help and get through it, too.
Well, she has been through a lot, that's for sure, and we're hoping the best for her. Wendy Nagel, thank you so much for joining us.